ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Hindu in association with Blue Star Limited, I welcome you all to Excellence in Education 2016. It's truly an honor to be under the same roof with so many educators and academicians. Today's conclave brings together academicians and industrialists on a common platform to discuss the importance of the education sector, current issues and opportunities to enhance education. We will be witness to special addresses and panel discussions between academicians, senior corporate leaders, research specialists, and more. Having said that, we would now like to make an auspicious beginning to today's proceedings by lighting the Kuttuvilakku, the lamp. To do the honors, I would like to invite Mr. B. Tyagarajan, Joint Managing Director, Blue Star Limited. We have Mr. N. Ram, Chairman, Kasturi & Sons Limited. Mr. Mukund Padmanabhan, Editor, The Hindu, and Nobel Peace Laureate, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Founder, Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation, to please step forward onto stage and light the lamp. Thank you, men. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a round of applause? We have our conference officially underway. I now request the editor of The Hindu, Mr. Mukund Padmanabhan, to please replace me at the podium and officially welcome the gathering.
Good morning. My job here is a very brief one. It is basically to say good morning, welcome you all to what I think is a wonderful initiative, this idea of bringing academics and industrialists together for what is essentially 3 interactive sessions on education. As far as the Hindu is concerned, I see this as a part, events like these, as a part of a process to sort of expand our interaction with our readership, regular readers of the Hindu, maybe even occasional readers of the Hindu. This started about 10 years ago, and I think we feel that it's important not just to engage with you in the morning, eyeball on page, but to engage with you in different forums like this. And this, I think, is one more example of the Hindu's interest in sort of engaging with people across diverse platforms. I'm also very pleased that we have a keynote speaker of the eminence of Mr. Kailash Satyarthi. He was in our offices yesterday, where he interacted with some of our senior editorial staff. And I'm not sure entirely what he's going to speak about today, but I know something of the manner in which he'll say it. He has a manner, and I mean, it's very clear that he not only has a heart, but he has a sharp intellect as well. But what is especially interesting about the way he goes about saying what he says is that there's a sort of gentle persuasion, which I think is important if you want to carry people along and convince them rather than, a sort of angry righteousness. And I think he exemplifies that in some way. So I will end by saying, once again, thank you very much for coming here, and I hope you have a great 3 sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Padmanabhan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to hear from our keynote speaker. He is the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize for the year 2014. He has been at the forefront of the global movement to end child slavery and exploitative child labor since 1980. The grassroots movement founded by him, Bachpan Bachao Andolan, has liberated more than 84,000 children from exploitation and developed a successful model for their education and rehabilitation. As a worldwide campaigner, he has been the architect of the single largest civil society network for the most exploited children, the founding president of the Global Campaign for Education, and Goodweave International, which was one of the first consumer awareness programs and the earliest examples of modern corporate social responsibility, and is also a member of several high-level groups on child labor and education. To achieve his vision of a world free of violence against children, a child-friendly world where all children are free, safe, healthy, and enrolled in a quality school, he has founded the Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation. The foundation's mission is to help create, implement, and advocate child-friendly policies that ensure the holistic development and empowerment of children. Before I request him to come and take the podium and share his views with us, we have a short video clip that we'd like you to watch.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2014 is to be awarded to Kailash Satyarthi for their struggle against suppression of young people and children.
There is no greater violence than to deny the dreams of our children. I refuse to accept that the laws and constitutions are unable to protect our children. Today is the time for every child to have the right to life. I refuse to accept that the shackles of slavery can ever be more stronger than the quest for freedom. I refuse to accept here.
Getting a greeting like this is all the reward Kailash Satyarthi needs for freeing these children from a life of slavery. He tries to give these kids the childhood they missed.
Do you think these kids see you as a Nobel Peace Prize winner?
No, I don't think they see me as friend or brother or something like father. I have looked into their frightened and exhausted eyes. I've held their injured bodies and I have felt their broken spirits.
I refuse to accept that children belonging to certain sections of society are born to work for others at the cost of their childhood and freedom and education.
If the children are exploited, if the children are deprived from their childhood in any part of the world cannot live in peace. The world cannot be human.
It's not often the two winners of the Nobel Peace Prize get together. When President Obama met Kailash Satyarthi, they were joined by 3 children who were rescued from child trafficking and forced marriage.
You cannot live in isolation. All the problems and solutions are interconnected. And so the problem of child labor in any part of the world is your problem.
Satyarthi organizes raids with local police, but sometimes employers are tipped off and waiting for him armed.
But I have been attacked many times in my life.
You had a gun to your head.
Literally here.
This is dangerous work, freeing these kids.
Somebody has to pay the cost for freedom. It does not come on plate. So if not me, then who else will do?
Who won the Nobel Prize, he asks. Their reply, all of us kids.
It's good. 'Cause 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 'cause
Every single minute matters. Every single child matters. Every single childhood matters.
I would be very surprised if those haunting images didn't bring tears to most of our eyes there. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Nobel Peace Laureate, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi. May I also request Mr. B. Tyagarajan, Joint Managing Director, Blue Star Limited, to please come up and present flowers and a token of our appreciation to Mr. Satyarthi.
Namaste, my dear sisters and brothers. Mr. Ram, Mr. Mukund, and all the friends from the Hindu. I have been the ardent reader and admirer of the Hindu for many, many years. So I feel really humbled and privileged to be amongst you today. And I am saying this not because of any courtesy, it is from my heart. I'm also humbled to be in the midst of some of the well-known educators, specialists in education, and experts. I'm not an expert, neither I was an excellent student during my engineering studies. Of course, I was very good in my primary and secondary schooling so that I could compete and get admission and a scholarship when I was enrolled in engineering college in Bhopal University. But later on, I got involved in the youth movement and the students' movement and so many other things. And perhaps I had to compromise with the excellence in my education. So speaking about the excellence in education is difficult for me. I don't know whether I will be able to do any justice to it or not. But let me begin with the two stories. One I read this morning in National Daily, and another one is related to my work. So let me begin with the second one. I was standing on a stage like that, along with the number of presidents and prime ministers and the top leadership from different fields. And that was a special occasion in the United Nations on education a few years ago. And with me, there were two girls, one from Africa whom we freed from domestic help, Avlabi, and another one was an 8-9-year-old girl, Devli. Devli was born and grew up in intergenerational slavery. Her grandparents were trafficked from Rajasthan to work in stone quarrying in Haryana. Her parents were born while working in bonded labor, and so was her. We rescued her in a very dangerous operation. And she gained some confidence in herself and some faith in me while I was bringing her to a safer place from those clutches of slave masters. she asked, "Sir, why didn't you come early?" And she asked this question because she has seen the death of her younger brother in her mother's lap. She has also seen how her father was brutally burned when he tried to stop some of the contractors and masters sexually abusing his wife. And the girl had this question to me and all of us, that what stops us to help such children in India and all across the world. But that girl was chosen to go with me for the United Nations special event on education because she was very curious. She was a very talented girl and she wanted to go to school. We helped her through our ashram, girls' ashram. She was very, very good. But she realized at one stage that I am able to read and write, she told me once. Now I wanted to give it back. I said, you have to continue your study. There would be a time to give back to the society. So she continued for a few years, and then she came back again and decided that she is going to work in her community and make sure that all children, especially the girls in her village, are attending the schools. She fought for it. And finally, she was successful in bringing all 36 girls and boys from her neighborhood to a school, and that was the first generation of alphabet. So she was chosen to go there because her commitment, her conviction to ensure education for all girls and boys was at par. And when she was talking to the people, addressed the group of world leaders, she was a tiny, very, very nice girl. And she said that I have never seen so many white people and so many rich people. I never met any prime minister or president. And today so many prime ministers and presidents are listening to me. And she said that, oh, some of you are kings and queens. Because there were some kings and queens from some countries, like Queen Rania and Sheikh Hamoza. They were present there. So she questioned and challenged that I was born in slavery, she said. I had a conviction to educate everyone, which I did in my neighborhood. There is no left out child. But you people with so much power, so much wealth, so much influence, why can't you bring all children to schools in the world? And I tell you that most of those people were in tears. Because the moral challenge, the power of morality, the power of conviction, the power of childhood, which was demonstrated by this tiny girl to the world leaders, was unparalleled. Dear friends, this was Devali. And today I was reading in the newspaper that a lady doctor has been charge-sheeted for an attempt to murder of her own father, 80-year-old father who was lying on bed in hospital, and she tried to plug the ventilator or whatever. And it was caught in the camera, CCTV, that her son, who is also a doctor, took some thumb impressions or some signatures on the papers. So the son, who is a doctor, well educated, her husband, who is a doctor, well educated, and she herself is a doctor, tried to kill her own father. There could be some property thing or whatever, but what was the limit of the greediness and the sin one can commit? So my very fundamental question is that when we talk of excellence in education, whose education was excellent? Was it Devli or was it this doctor who stood first or topper and tried to kill her father? Education has three major imperatives. We all know, and most of us know. But what is leading now is the economic imperative. We all look education with a commercial eye, with a corporate eye. We think that education or the young people are demographic dividend, and if we invest on dividend, then the return would be much more bigger. It's true, nothing bad in it. The another imperative is the social and moral imperative. That the role of education is as an enabler, as an equalizer. The education liberates human beings from inside and outside. Education is something which helps in creating harmony and peace in the society, which helps in us in building some mutual understanding about the situations, assessing them, addressing them, and influencing the situations which are not good for the society. And the third and important imperative is the human rights imperative, that how education is ensuring and ascertaining the establishment of human rights in our society, and how education can help in building a culture of human rights rather than just learning about the human rights. And that should reflect in our day-to-day behavior, in our life. We know that education is the key for sustainable development. And that is the social development, ecological development, and economic development. There are evidences and studies conducted by World Bank and UNESCO and UNICEF and so on, that just one single year of primary schooling for a child gives an additional return in 10 to 15% income in the later stage of life, every single year of schooling. And if we are going to give the secondary education, then every single year of secondary education helps in an increase of 20 to 25% individual's income in the later stage of life. So for individual, it's very important to be educated, and good quality education is even much more rewarding. There is a study conducted in some years ago by the World Bank in 50 different countries over the last 20 years. And that has proven with the empirical evidences that one single year of schooling for the whole society in a country helps in an increased GDP by 0.37%. If we are able to educate the entire generation for 10 years, then the GDP growth rate may grow up to 4% every year. So it has a very strong economic imperative. So many other factors. There's another study which says that if all children are educated in the least developing countries, then 171 million people can get rid of poverty, and that is the 12% poverty reduction in the world. And there are other studies which prove that if you are able to ensure good quality education, then the return would be much more higher. As far as the social imperative is concerned, we have seen that education is the most powerful vaccination in HIV/AIDS. A study conducted by Global Campaign for Education proves that we can protect the lives of 7 million people over the next 10 years if we just give them education, then they will be prevented from HIV and AIDS. The infant mortality rate can come down by 5 times if the mothers are educated. The child marriages could be averted significantly just through education. So there are so many social factors involved in education. But most important thing is the humanitarian and human rights factor. That if education is unable to empower the people to fight for themselves, fight for justice, influence the surroundings which are creating injustices and maintaining a status quo in the society against a large section of have-not, then we have to see that whether education is really helping in creating an equitable society, or we are just educating our children to become more selfish. The choice is ours. Whether we wanted to get an excellence in education to create the parts or tools or fuel of economic engine, or we wanted to create the empowered young people who can care for themselves, but who can care for the nation, who can care for the entire humanity as global citizens, responsible global citizens, with some sensitivity and rational both. So if education does not lead to create the sensitive and rational human beings, then we have to question whether we are going to impart the good quality, excellent education or not. When I talk of education, education is one E, but I'm talking about 5 more E's, what I call the 6th E. Education that is linked with, that should be linked with employability and entrepreneurship. We cannot generate employment so much, but we can definitely create employability by way of educating our children. And then excellence. Then equally important is ethics and equity. So education, employability, entrepreneurship, ethics, and equity in society. They must go hand in hand. You are aware that one of the great successes of civil society organizations, I was also the part of it, and I tried to make my humble contribution in bringing certain aspects and principles in future development agenda, and that is sustainable development goal. We have a strong component of equity, inclusion, and quality in education, apart from the lifelong learning principle. So if education compromises with equity, which is happening in India and most parts of the world, with inclusion and with quality, then we have to solve it now. And that is the guiding principle for the future development agenda for any country and for the global community. So that kind of education has to be ascertained. Quality is key. I was reading somewhere that 10 years ago, the coaching class businesses for engineering admission was quite huge with $2 billion. And now it has grown up to $23 billion in 10 years' time. Just the coaching business, to bring the quality and excellence in education so that the youth can get admission in education. It has become a big commercial venture now. But what is the quality of employability? Only 20% of India's engineers are qualified to get a job. 80% are struggling to find a job. So we have not been able to ensure quality in engineering education in spite of so much big business of private coaching classes. So these are challenges. There was an article yesterday or day before in Delhi newspapers that 74% or 73% sixth grade students are not able to cope with the class 2 curriculum. And 63% of students of sixth grade cannot read and write in Hindi or English. They cannot complete one single numerical. Sixth grade student cannot just do the sum on subtraction. So that is the state of affairs of education in the capital of India. And there are many studies which say that we are failing in bringing quality. Excellence is even above. Dear friends, you come from academic background as well as from corporate and other places. And that's why the moral responsibility for bringing an education and quality education for all children is key. And that's why I refuse to accept that the people who are sitting in this hall are unable to bring about change in the entire education system of this country. You have that power, you have that capacity, you have that outreach, you have that influence to ensure equity in education, inclusion in education, and quality in education of the country. Millions of children are left out in the world. We don't understand the power of education, unfortunately, in comparison to those who are killing children inside the schools. ISIS picked up girls from schools. Thousands of girls at the age of 12 and 13 are held in their captivity, and sometimes they are sold in lesser prices than the cigarette pack. There are news which appears on the media when a girl was sold for a sex slavery at the age of 12 and she is not able to perform well. She was buried alive in a prepared grave. She was taken out from schools. A boy has been taken out from school and given gun in his hand to kill suspected traitor of this outfit. And if he is not to do, he was buried alive in a grave. 144 children were assassinated. They were killed brutally in a school in Peshawar a year and a half ago. Hundreds of girls were taken by a group called Boko Haram in Nigeria, and nobody knows their fate, whether they are alive. Some of them who escaped somehow, they complained that these people hate education because education brings power. Education opens the mind. If the girls are educated, they cannot maintain that kind of religious fundamentalism which these outfits want. So they understand the value of education. I think we have to act now. Dear friends, for excellence in education, I have another 3L formula, very simple. As I was talking about 6E, one is listen. Listen to your students. Listen to the parents of students. Listen to the situation. Sometimes we just close our or block our doors and windows of our mind, and we think that we know everything, and what we are imposing on our children, we are going to ensure highest scoring, and highest scoring is the excellence in education. If 99% marks or 100% marks come, then we say, oh, this is the excellent result. Not really. If we have to continue enhancing excellence in education, then we have to learn and, first of all, listen from the children. And secondly, there should be a continuous learning process. The educators must learn what is happening in the world, in technology, what is happening in the world in new curricula, new child-friendly ways, new incentives in education. So the learning process must go on. So first is listening, second is learning, and third is leading. Lead. So listen, learn, and lead. The excellence could be achieved in education or any field of life when you have built an inherent leadership. I strongly feel that each one of you is leader here. You are champions in your own way. But leadership with compassion, the leadership with rationalism, leadership with clear objective, what to achieve, leadership which can build the teams, build the participation, and take your people along with you towards highest goals in achieving excellence in education. That you can do. Finally, through my foundation, I strongly believe that education cannot be achieved without liberating the children from slavery. But there are two parallel things, looks like. But there are two sides of the same coin. I have been talking for the last 36 years what I call education for liberation and liberation for education. That has been the slogan of Bachpan Bachao Andolan. But the policies are so segregated. The implementation is so poor while we are dealing with different aspects of child rights. My new organization is trying to work for policy, more holistic and comprehensive policies, where we can converge the programs and policies for the betterment of children as a child, as one entity, not segmented into pieces. The second thing is about the people. We wanted to build the biggest possible and strongest possible people's movement, especially involving youth. So I'm planning to launch the human history's most ambitious and the most engaging campaign, what I call 100 million for 100 million. 100 million young people, children, are deprived of their childhood. They are victims of various forms of violence, slavery, trafficking, child soldiers, child prostitution, so many things. Denial of education is also violence. Children who are put to work in abject poverty without no reason, they are also the victims of violence. I always say that children have never created any war, but they are worst sufferers and victims of wars and insurgencies and violence. No child on the earth is responsible for poverty. But children are already victims of poverty, and then they are further victimized by way of engaging them as child laborers or child slaves or child prostitutes. 100 million plus children. But on the other hand, 100 million plus young people are full of energy and enthusiasm. And more importantly, they have a strong element of idealism. They are hungry to prove themselves. They are eager to do something new for the society. They wanted some kind of accomplishment. But if the society as whole, the whole ecosystem is not able to provide them a better opportunity, a better objective, then all this energy may divert or is diverting already into frustration, disillusionment, intolerance, and sometimes violence. And that is growing all across the world. So how to protect the entire generation? I think one easy way, which I have some experience with in the last so many years working with young people, to engage them for a better cause of their peers, their sisters and brothers who are left out. So 100 million young people in universities, colleges, schools, those who are comparatively better off, they should become the voices, the spokespersons, the champions and leaders for the cause of 100 million children who are left out. It is going to address two separate constituencies, and if they go on parallel in different diversions and directions, then we are going to create more violence in the world, more tensions, social and economic tensions and disparities and inequalities which are growing every day in the world. We have to converge somehow, knowing each other and helping each other. So my campaign would be 100 million for 100 million. I call upon you to be a strong partner in it as principals or educators, as teachers, as business leaders, because it is going to help in creating a sense of global citizenship, a value of global citizenship in the world, and addressing the problem simultaneously of have-nots or left-out children. How do you like this idea? I'm not asking just to clap. If you feel that we have to solve the problem of 100 million left-out children, who are those children who are sold and bought like animals and sometimes in lesser prices than the animals? Who are those children who are buried alive in Syria or killed in Pakistan or trafficked from Assam to this place? They are all our children. They are all our children. And we are responsible for them. We have the power to change their lives, dear friends. I'm going to take up these things with an appeal, with an invitation that we in India, we may have thousands of problems, hundreds of problems, but we are the land of solutions. Every Indian has a way to solve her or his problem, national and international problems, that we will do it. When I got the Nobel Prize, everybody thinks that Kailash Satyarthi is going to become a celebrity with this. The first Indian-born Indian to get the Nobel Peace Medal, which I brought on this land. I said humbly that this is not for me, this is for my motherland. This is for India. And I am not a priest or a politician or a very special person. As a humble activist, I meant it. So I wrote a letter to the President of India that, sir, I wanted to give away to my nation this Nobel Prize. And President was surprised because it never happened in the history, so there was no precedent how a person can offer the Nobel Peace Prize to the nation. There was no way. So I have requested him again, but I am very thankful to him that he made a new protocol, a new example in India, and I went and handed over to him. It is now lying in the President's Museum. It is not with me, so I don't carry a burden of a Nobel medal on my head. And I said that time that this is for my nation, but I said, I referred old doha of Sant Kabir, that mera mujh mein kachu nahi, jo kachu hai sab tor, aur tera tujhko saupte, kya lagat hai mor. There's nothing inside me which belongs to me alone. Everything which I have, right from my body, my soul, my mind, it is from Mother India. And if I am going to give it back to my nation, it is not mine which I am going to give back. I'm returning back which I got from my people. So I tried to share my moral responsibility with the entire country, and you are among them. Please, 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 save our children. Make sure that no child is left behind. If we talk of excellence in education, every Indian child should be at par in education, should be excellent in his life or her life. I hope that we together can make it. History is not going to forgive us. Children are not going to wait and cannot forgive us. If we are able to protect this generation, then the rest of generations to come will protect themselves. We should be the first generation who will make child labor, child slavery and history, illiteracy a history, so that our children will read in the history books that there was something called illiteracy, something called child slavery. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Satyarthi. I have to say that listening to you has been an education in itself, and sharing the room with you, I'm sure everyone here will agree, has been a true honor. Ladies and gentlemen, after that inspirational half hour, we now go into our first panel discussion of the day, where our panelists will be discussing about the gap between education provided and industry-required education. Let me begin by first introducing you to our moderator for this panel. She is the brain behind Chrysalis, an organization that works with over 1,000 schools across India, impacting thousands of teachers and lakhs of children. The flagship product focuses on transforming classrooms to Chrysalis think rooms in hundreds of schools. After a master's in English and with an MBA, she left a comfortable family-run business to heed her calling, and today it has truly paid off. Whether it is leaders, teachers, and parents associated with schools or employees of Chrysalis, all of them share a positive, vibrant, and hopeful outlook about education. Chrysalis has also won the ET Game Changer Award out of 63,000 nominations, as well as South Asia's Best Curriculum Award. Please join me in welcoming founder and CEO Chrysalis, formerly Easy Vidya, Miss Chitra Ravi. I will now invite our panelists to take their place on stage as well, beginning with Dr. Prabir K. Bagchi, Vice Chancellor, SRM University. Ms. Meeta Sengupta, Founder, Center for Education Strategy. And Mr. Sujit Kumar, HR Business Leader, Infosys Limited. I will now be handing the floor over to our moderator, who will introduce our panelists to you and take us through the next hour. If there are any questions you may have through the session which you would like your panelists to answer, please write them down on the Q&A slip kept at your table, mentioning your name and who the question is addressed to, and hand them over to the promoters who are in the hall, and they will hand them over to our moderator. With that, I hand the floor over to you, ma'am, to take us through. Thank you.
Thank you. After the stellar speech, I think it left me with a lump in my heart, a lump in my throat. I think intense compassion in my heart and a fire in my belly. And I'm sure it did a lot more to all of us here. Thank you so much, Nobel Laureate. I think the stage has been so beautifully set, talking about the economic imperatives, talking about the sociological and the human rights aspect of education, and we are all here together to see how we can change the world through excellence in education. And here I'm privileged to introduce the co-panelists who are sitting here, who are all eminent people, and we are here to, for the next 1 hour or so, talk about a very important, probably touching upon the economic imperative, and I hope the perspectives can go beyond that as well. I'd first like to introduce Professor Prabir Bagchi. Professor Bagchi is not only the Vice Chancellor at the prestigious SRM University, he's also Senior Associate, Dean of the School of Business, George Washington University, Director of the Operations and Supply Chain Management Program. He has worked with the World Bank and US federal government in various projects, including designing, delivering logistics and supply chain management courses for Defense Leadership Program for the US Department of Defense. He has published over 50 journal articles in well-regarded journals in logistics and supply chain management. He's a member of the editorial boards and reviewer of half-dozen scholarly journals, the NSF USA and the Research Council of Canada. The visiting professor at Cranfield School of Management, the University of Turin, Italy, and the Norwegian School of Management. Professor Bagchi is also Fulbright Fellow at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, a distinguished fellow at the University of Sydney, Australia, and the Otto Monstedt Chair at the Copenhagen Business School. He has visited many other universities all over the world, creating a wide international network. He has been awarded the prestigious Accenture Award with his co-author twice, one in 1995 and 2004, for his outstanding paper in logistics and supply chain management. I welcome Professor Bagchi here. We also have a good friend of mine and a very eminent educator, I would say, Meeta Sengupta. She's the founder of Center for Education Strategy. She's a writer, speaker, and advisor on education and skills. She designs institutional interventions to meet organizational learning goals. She connects the silos of policy, research, and practice so relevant today. Has written a number of op-eds, columns, and blogs, including the Times of India, Mint, the Daily Pioneer, Forbes, etc., where she shares solutions with the education community. I think that's the need of the hour. Meeta has extensive global experience in education, having taught and led across academic, professional, and community education. Her favorite place, interestingly, is still in the classroom, where real learning transforms lives. She's the convener of a very popular online conversation, EduIn, on Twitter that reaches millions of timelines and has worked with innovations, budget private schools, education legislation reform, higher education governance issues, and the school safety campaign, among many others. Meeta is currently working on systems models for digital pedagogy and the future of education. Welcome, Meeta, to the panel. We have also, I would say, a corporate face to the panel, Mr. Sujit Kumar, who has over 17 years experience in the field of human resources, with extensive experience in design and implementation of employee engagement initiatives. Sujit has been with Infosys Limited for the last 15 years and has performed several roles in this period. He's currently the HR business leader for Infosys, where he heads the HR function for Infosys Global Sales. Sujit has extensive experience in setting up the HR function in a development center and has conceptualized and executed several employee engagement initiatives. He has rich experience in managing the business HR function and people strategy. He's a recipient of the Infosys Award for Excellence and has won several awards for his innovation in people management and employee engagement, delivered over 1,500 guest lectures, and spends his weekends mostly visiting colleges and speaking to young minds. Very interesting phase of Sujit is also that he is the founder and managing trustee of Matram Foundation, which provides free higher education to meritorious students from the economically weaker section of the society. More than 330 students have been benefited through this initiative in the last 3 years. Matram Foundation has also embarked on an ambitious journey of setting up school libraries in select government corporation schools across Tamil Nadu. He's the winner of the Young Achiever Award and icon of Rotaract, awarded by Rotary International for his outstanding work with the student community. Recipient of the Changemaker Award in 2014, Sujit is currently part of several academic councils of colleges and a steering committee member of the NASCOM HR Forum at Chennai and the honorary president of the National HRD Network Chennai chapter. Really a privilege to, I would say, share the stage and on this very important panel discussion. Very pertinent and highly generative topic, I would say, that we are on to here in session 1 of today. The gap between education provided and industry required education. I think the topic itself is quite irrefutable, but the challenges around it, the complexities, and the plane in which and by which we should be looking at this issue itself is, I think, calls for 360-degree deliberations. we should probably trigger off some perspectives today. I've always wondered if this topic is timeless, and is it just that we have more forums to online and offline to discuss this today, or is it that in the known history in the past several decades, that the gap is the widest now? So that I think is going to be a very interesting, I mean, I've always wondered at that. And of course, I don't have to reiterate what the Nobel laureate spoke about in terms of unemployability and the stark statistics that face us. I think today unemployment is slowly fading behind the larger danger of unemployability. As an educator and a person, I think, running an organization that meets and talks, dialogues with at least 200 teachers on a given day, I also recognize, and I'm sure many of us would be here, that this challenge is, starts with perhaps policy level frameworks, curriculum design, teacher quality that we are all quite aware of, and that is a topic of discussion in many forums. The concept of understanding the skills itself, I mean, do we have a common definition, and is it across domains? How do we integrate this into quality education and excellence in education? And of course, I remember reading somewhere that it's not easy to give marks for skills that matter in workplace as well. So how do we assess these skills, which is an important part of education itself? And I want to quote here a very interesting line that I've read in Meeta's blog post, where she says that while some of us want to grow up as intellectuals, most of us want jobs when we go through education. So as raised, there is this larger question of the aims of education. What should educational goals be? Political, personal, economic. And so I think this is a highly generative topic, but having set that stage on this, I would now request Professor Bagchi to first speak.
You go there?
Yeah, you can go there if you're comfortable, or you could.
I'm a professor.
Yeah.
Everyone has some rare events that they would remember for the rest of life. And today is one in the midst of Nobel Peace Laureate, Mr. Satyarthi. This is a rare event. I will cherish it. And the other thing that I must tell, when I was growing up in the 50s, two newspapers I liked to read, and I will always wait to get it. One is the Hindu, the other is Statesman. Statesman is no longer what it used to be, but I'm also fortunate to have noticed that Mr. Ram, whose writings I always enjoyed, is also here. So this is a very, very memorable occasion. The question today about the gap between education provided and industry requirement is not new. I still remember I changed from IIT Kharagpur, because that was in those days in boondocks, to a very old engineering college near Calcutta, so that I could work with industry there. And even in the US and some of the European countries, this is a standard complaint. In some countries it works a little better. For example, tiny country like Denmark, and probably in the Germanic world. The other problem that you see today is growing mismatch between graduate skills and market needs, which are galloping. And as Mr. Satyarthi suggested, 80% are unemployable. Now, I have seen many surveys. There are also geographic mismatch, but we're going to talk about content mismatch. Some educational institutions, both private and government funded, have begun to focus on some of the complaints like soft skills, technical skills of graduates, but a large majority of them are far behind what industry expects. But are industry expectations realistic? That's the first question I'm going to present to you. As technology changes at a breakneck speed, needs for new skill grows. Can university curriculum keep pace? In India, particularly in services, where the clock speed for change is much faster, the skills gap is much wider, reflecting the slim availability of high-quality college graduates. And this is the second question: does industry have a role? If we look at the Indian education system, we'll find there are lots of technical institutions. According to All India Council of Technical Education, many engineering institutions opened and closed. Many don't get students. The university system of very few countries would be able to cope with the demographic bulge that we have in India. I think one high-power body, Education Commission, which was, I think they gave their report some 7, 8 years back, said we need 1,500 universities. Can you imagine how much that would take to build 1,500? Even 500 is a huge task. So what has happened is, while the best and most selective universities generate too few graduates, new private colleges have mushroomed. But these are of uneven and questionable quality. Only a few can probably pass muster. And hence the other question, does government have a role? So given this scenario, I'm going to address what is going on and what do we do. I'll pose 5 possible steps. First, industry-academia partnerships. If we look at successful nations, one of the approaches to tackle the problem of lacking job is partnership between the industry and academia. I know a small beginning has been done, and some of the IT companies are partnering with a few engineering colleges and universities. So is this something that we should look at very closely? Joint initiatives by the industry and academia, I believe, will play an important part plugging the talent gap. I have thought about this, and I have come up with, after discussing people, 3R strategy. Now, these are not reading, writing, and arithmetic, which you all know. This is rigor, relevance, research. Now, if you notice Indian education system, we always had academic rigor. There is no question about it. And in fact, I used to joke with my doctoral advisor in the US that, look, you have given me a comprehensive exam for 7 days. It used to take 7 days to write doctoral comprehensive exam. I said, this is simpler than my undergraduate final exam. And he would not believe this is the case. And yes, it is. We subject our students to burdens unheard of. We rob their youth. If you look at the size of the backpack that our school students carry, you would think they will have some problem with their body at some point. They will stoop because of the weight. Second thing is relevance. What is academic rigor if it is not relevant to industry. And the third R is you get relevance by doing research in what the society needs, what the industry needs. These are the 3 R's: academic rigor, relevance, research. And one of the ways you can get this is what is practiced in many countries we call cooperative education for students. Now, how does it work? It combines academic study with alternating work terms. Takes longer to graduate, but the student is immersed in what is needed in the industry. It gives students an opportunity to test skills learned in the classroom and to expand their knowledge through related work experience. It also helps employers who are a key partner in the process. They can benefit from this program as the students bring new ideas, fresh perspectives, and enthusiasm to the workplace. So cooperative education may be the bridge between employer, the student, and the academic institution. Second point that I'm going to talk about is students. How do we select students? Now, one of the things in India is we parents somehow choke the students. Family pressure in selecting discipline, what I call helicopter parents. Not allowing youngsters to blossom in disciplines they like. We are often guided by market job availability. Now, I understand in a developing world, that may not be very easy to stop. So as a result of this, what happens? Choice of wrong profession, and many don't excel. Creativity often gets stifled. And if you look at our incoming students, many of them do not have the right preparation because of rote learning, not much hands-on, not much scope of independent thinking. So my mantra is 3 I's. Imagination. Imagine of things that never were and ask, why not? As Bernard Shaw would have asked. Introspection. Look for ways how these imagined ideas can be brought to life. It could be simple service changes or new products that will delight the customers. So that imagination and introspection will lead to innovation. The third point I'm going to address is curriculum development. How do we close the gap? Some of the things that we believe would work is active industry participation in curriculum re-engineering. Periodic audits, more experiential learning courses. Collaboration between industry and university in joint projects, student internships, real-life projects focusing on experiential learning. And one of the ways to catalyze this is faculty sabbaticals in responsible assignments, projects with the industry. Another program that works well is what we call executive in residence program in universities. People who have been grounded in industry, in management, in new technology, if they spend time in universities, they can certainly help bridge some of the gaps that we are talking about. The fourth one I'm going to address is regulations or over-regulation. In India particularly, regulations are stifling educational institutions in every possible way. So what can you do? You open the education sector to all, including foreign universities, but not to the vested interest. It should be based strictly on merit. Transparent regulations and administration by an independent body. Strong autonomous accreditation agency, not controlled by government, but periodically audited. This must be composed of academics with impeccable credentials, might invite foreign experts initially. And funding for universities must be subject to successful accreditation. The fifth point, last but not the least, is faculty. One of the main reasons is the lack of quality faculty in many institutes and universities. I just read 39% vacant positions in IITs. Teaching profession does not command respect in the marketplace and offers very little financial incentives and thus not able to attract top talents. When an individual is graduating, 22 years old or 21 years old from IITs, if the market in the industry or commercial pays them X and you pay X divided by 5, can you blame that young person to choose X divided by 5? Now, in many cases, that is the scale of difference. On the other hand, if you look at developed economies, some of those who are more successful, you will find faculty salaries about 80% of what is the median salary in the marketplace. That can attract best candidates to academia. The other thing we need to do is we can build leaders from within through faculty sabbaticals and industry. Through these sabbatical programs, faculty members can return rejuvenated, get a fresh perspective, and often feel like they have a new job and they're ready to re-engineer course syllabi. So in summary, for this to happen, we have to build an ideal environment for faculty which would attract the best and brightest. A nurturing environment where we'd allow faculty to blossom. Sometimes endowed chairs, bringing in world-class faculty can create groups of other junior faculty and who can then engage in cutting-edge research. The other things that can help bringing the brightest mind is, of course, research funds, and particularly industry-sponsored joint research, which could be a good CSR initiative for industry. And these are some of the things, if we do, we can recruit and retain top-notch faculty. So in summary, our model is we'll have academic focus, where academic rigor, relevance, responsibility, investment in research and scholarship, professional focus, where we will involve industry, so that we make education relevant, and lifelong learning initiatives so that people get rejuvenated.
I think the role of a moderator comes in very hard when I have to, pause a free-flowing session. But we will have another round of trigger questions. Professor Bagchi, would you like to?
1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Then we looked at the national market, the national HR policies to meet skills gap, and finally, international market so that we differentiate our programs, including international accreditation and partnership with reputed institutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The 3 R's, the 3 I's, and I really love the line where he says, why do we subject our students to burden? I think we have a long introspection, one of the I's that he was talking about to do. I invite Meeta now to share her thoughts on the same topic.